Introducing Shop, Click, and Pick, the simplest way to support those doing good in communities everywhere. We understand that shopping is a necessity, but with a slight adjustment, you can make a huge difference without spending any extra money. Here's how it works. Please visit communitypayitforward.us and navigate to the Find Your Partners tab. Discover our verified giving partners, which are trusted allies ready to meet your needs. Shop with any of the partners that resonate with you. Click a picture of the receipt or invoice, then pick the mission partner you wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt directly to us. After that, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchases, knowing that you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing the story of those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone when we all come together. Hey everybody, it's Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward. We have a great partner that is coming up that is very, very timely, let's put it that way, because tomorrow, of course, this is tomorrow at the time of the recording, not tomorrow, but this is actually kind of a day that everybody should celebrate every day. It's Spoil That Dog Day. And Community Pay It Forward is associated directly with this organization, Gift So Good. And we are growing our inventory every day to get you the best and the widest variety of pet products. So please check out our website, Gift So Good. And remember, August 10th, Spoil Your Dog Day.
Born into a real fight wasn't right. Where can she dream here? Took a hold of her life, left at night.
Hey everybody, Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward. Yeah, it's one of those days. Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the IMpACT channels. I'm here on a special day, Friday, because we've got a lot of announcements that we really, really want to make. We've got one of our great partners that has an event going on that we really want to take and share with you so you can participate and support them. Of course, you can always use the Community Pay It Forward Shop, Click, and Pick program, to where all you have to do is find their page, scan their QR code, just go to communitypayitforward.us, type in the Aziza Project. When the Aziza Project comes in, find a partner to shop with, take a picture of the receipt, attach that picture to the form, and send it to us. The referral that is given to us, since we sent you to them, that referral becomes a donation. And we're not talking a small donation, okay? Whatever they give us, the Aziza Project gets 75% of it. So, but spoil your dog day tomorrow. You can wait until tomorrow to get spoiled. I don't think she can. So I think I'm going to change the name of the show to the Zach and Zephyr Show. So, because, Zephyr just always wants to be up here and in everybody else's face as well. So, but anyway, we do want to talk to you about an event that the Aziza Project has going on right now, and it's a Pampered Chef party. And so you can support the Aziza Project with the link below, or you can go onto Facebook and type in the Aziza Project, Pampered Chef. And here is our friend Stephanie talking about the Aziza Project's Pampered Chef program. Eventually, when my mouth stops freezing. What a day. Hey, everybody. I'm here with a very, very dear friend, somebody that I don't talk to near enough, I don't think. But Stephanie Berman with the Aziza Project. How are you doing today?
Doing not great. Zach, you were just talking about how you woke up at 2:00 this morning, and I've woken up at 4, 4, and 5 the last 3 mornings. So yeah, that irritated nerve in my pelvis is not learning its lesson yet. So
Oh, that's
actually,
terrible to hear.
we are actually on our way to Tulsa for trip number 4 in October. So yeah. Overall, though, I feel like I am doing better. I feel like I have a better team in support of me. We're starting to figure things out. I really don't do well with trial and error stuff, so I'm very much more like, just tell me what to take, I'll take it, and I'll tell you if it doesn't work. And so I feel like that's working better. So we're getting there. It's still slow. And it's hard to see slow progress. So, but the Aziza Project is doing great, actually.
Well, that's good to hear. Dr. Babs, is he very uh, confident on the way that things are going? Is he,
Yeah,
uh, I guess, skeptically cautious, or how's he taking things?
for sure. I think he's still like, uh, Stephanie is just a big puzzle that we have to figure out. There are more layers to this onion than I expected. And so we're pulling in new tools that he hasn't used yet. And we're gonna give that a go and see if it helps. And hi, doggo. Oh, you got the licking. Um, and so yeah, I think he's still very much supportive. I think he feels bad that we live so far away. Um, but it's not his fault. And it's our choice to travel to a doctor that we trust and like working with, and he's not giving up like the doctors did here. So we travel. And having a doctor who's willing to keep fighting, even if you have to travel to them, is worth every penny. So we do.
And how is the search going for other doctors?
As far as the Aziza project goes, we haven't started looking for other doctors yet because we need more money in order to be able to bring on more people. Like right now, my goal before we add another doctor to the Aziza project, we really need to hit like $10,000 in monthly gifts on a regular basis, because that will help us help one client a month get to Tulsa, get some stuff figured out, get a good start on getting a medical procedure. Because if we add another doctor, we're adding a doctor whose procedures are even more expensive. And because I think since I talked to you last, I've basically decided to choose the doctors that associate with the Aziza project very carefully, so that we don't have cases where they try one doctor and then they don't quite get to where they need to be, so then they need to go to another doctor,
Yeah.
and oh look, we've got a doctor in the Aziza project who also does that. I don't want to send clients between Aziza project patients unless those doctors do different things. So because I believe that we can put a team together who has the stick-to-itiveness, and as Dr. Babb described himself, as a bulldog to figure things out for the patient. I don't want to, I don't mind patients hitting the end of the doctor's kind of main wheelhouse, but if there are still tricks and stuff that are in the doctor's wheelhouse that they haven't employed yet, well, get them to be willing to employ those so they can stay with the doctor they've been working with for who knows how long. And then that doctor can kind of decide, okay, I'm done. We've reached the end of my wheelhouse. You need to go talk to this other doctor. And at that point, maybe we go add that other doctor, so long as there's not overlap between what the two doctors are actually doing.
Oh, I
So
think there would be. I love that. I love that thought process because there's a lot of lost in translation a lot of times when one of the things that I couldn't stand is the first like 4 years, maybe 3 years of my motorcycle accident. I had three primary doctors because I was in a clinic.
yeah,
And so you had to sit there and you had to get comfortable with this doctor and you had to talk to them, tell them all this stuff and get them up to date. And then next thing you know, somebody else comes in because that one's moved on. And you as a patient, you sit there and this isn't nowhere near as personal of an issue as what you're dealing with. But I mean, you're sitting there and you're having to tell this next doctor, oh, God, here we go again. Well, this is what happened. This is how it happened. This is what's going on. So I know that we really are trying to do things. Everybody just saw your landing page from our website where you got the QR code there. We welcome anybody to use the community pay it forward program at any time to support the Aziza project. All you have to do is go to if you go to our website, communitypayitforward.us, and just type in Aziza project, it'll take you to the 501c3s and healthcare. And you just go in there, you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the partners, shop, click and pick, shop with a partner, click a picture of it, and pick the Aziza project to support them. You look behind you right now, you have a QR code that takes you to your donation portal, right? You know
yeah.
what? I recorded a video the other day and it took me 17 takes to say donation portal. And I just flubbed it up again to where I'm sitting there.
Yeah,
So
I can. Yeah, for sure. I could be there right with you. It's only 8 o'clock here. I just rolled out of bed at 7, so I haven't had breakfast yet, and the dog hasn't even got out. So
well, one of the other things that you have going on, and one of the reasons why we got you up this god awful hour, is to tell us about a program you have going on right now.
yes, so right now we are running a Pampered Chef fundraiser. So for all of those cooks and uh backyard barbecuers out there, this is your opportunity to support the Aziza Project, get some new stuff for the kitchen or the grill, and like they have rubs and stuff now too. Like it's not
Do.
just supplies. And Pampered Chef will actually donate back to the Aziza Project a large portion of the party sales. Last year, they have kind of two tiers. They're like, okay, between $250 and $649, I think is the first kind of set. We will donate back 10%. And then if you get a, or maybe, yeah, and then if you get above $649.99, we will donate back 15%. But in August, they double those numbers. So it's 20% and 30%. So that's why we love doing this fundraiser in August, because it's basically a double donation. Now, you guys won't get a tax deductible receipt for your purchase from Pampered Chef, because Pampered Chef is the one making the donation out of the money you gave them.
Which is the exact same thing as what we do.
Yeah.
You're making a purchase.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something as a guy who's went through 900 of these in my adult life, 900 can openers. I bought a can opener from Pampered Chef and I've had it for a year and a half and it still works. I used it last night.
That's awesome.
So, look, Pampered Chef does cost a little bit, but I'm going to tell you something. As a guy who does a lot of the cooking, my wife and I share cooking duties. I love having nice equipment to cook with. I cannot use cheap knives. I can't use, I don't like using cheap materials when I cook. It I'm not a grilled cheese guy. Last night I made my first goulash ever. I've never made goulash before, so I made that last night. But I do shrimp lao mein all the time. I do all kinds of things, just experimenting and having fun. And if we didn't have nicer materials to cook with, it just wouldn't be as fun. Do you guys have any actual parties coming up or anything like that?
Our online party, totally online, it's on Facebook. I can get you the link if you don't have it. But our online party is going live today, I believe. The link is already up. The Facebook group is active. Our hostess, our Pampered Chef consultant, is posting posts to get people to engage. We've gotten several, I think 3 orders already. We're already into the have to get to this point to get the donation. We passed the $250 in sales points already, so that's great. Last year we earned $529.89 off this fundraiser. I think we can triple that this year.
You know what? That's one of the reasons why I'm really glad that I read your. Oh, by the way, if you do not get Stephanie's email blast, please sign up for it. Just go to her website and let them know, hey, I want to get in on the email blast. I read your email blast and I saw that you guys were doing this, and I immediately called you and said, hey, let's record an extra thing and let's get it on Red Friday and let's have a lot of fun with this and support you. I know that we've got a Carolyn Rasmussen is our Pampered Chef representative, and we're going to be doing a couple Pampered Chef throughout the time or throughout the years is what we're going to do. Tell me this: what is your favorite thing that you've got to experience from Pampered Chef?
Ooh, my favorite thing from Pampered Chef. Okay, so last year we bought a few different things, and there's a couple things that I really love that have been really helpful for us this year. We got a set of, and this might have just been a gift from Pampered Chef, but so I don't remember ordering them. A set of like 3 paring knives, and they're the perfect size to cut our little dog's treats into quarters. So those knives have gotten used so much this year to get those treats cut into smaller pieces so that he's not eating so many calories. And then the other thing we bought that I really enjoyed is their microwave egg cooker. It's like a ceramic egg cooker, and you
Yeah.
crack the egg into it and you put it in the microwave for like 40 seconds and it cooks the egg. And you can apparently do like omelet sort of scrambled stuff in it. And so I'm actually going to start playing around with that a little bit for my breakfast in the morning. Throw some fajita veggies in there and stuff like that. So cheese.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but my favorite thing is a can opener that works, because there is nothing worse than a can opener that does not work. So
Yeah.
I know that we took over the house to take care of my elderly parents, and Adrian and I will be getting ready to go to bed, and then all of a sudden we'll hear it's sounding like somebody's trying to take down half of the house, and we'll come down and my dad's trying to slam a can open with something. It's like, Dad, I'll get that for you.
Yeah.
So, stop, relax, calm down. You're scaring the hell out of the dogs, you know?
Yeah.
So, not only that, but you just had a fat guy try to run down 3 flights of stairs and he's going to die. So, it's actually like a flight and a half, but for me, it seems like 3 flights. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but how long is your party going, Steph?
The party is going most of August. Like, you've got
Perfect.
time. We're not ending it in like 3 days or something like that. I'm sure the hostess will host when the party is getting near completion. I think it's like the third week of August. I think I told her I'm going on vacation on this date, so let's end it, the week before, so that we have time to wrap up over the weekend if we need to. So like the 22nd maybe might be like when we start wrapping it up.
Uh,
So, yeah.
Well, you know what? Why don't you just go on ahead and keep sending us updates? And I didn't want to disturb you for too long, but I wanted to make sure that we got this out to the people who are following us, because we got a lot of people who are doing some really cool things, and I wanted to make sure that we were able to share this with them. So, Stephanie, how did they get a hold of you if they have questions about the Aziza project?
Best way is to go to the website, azizaproject.org, and hit the schedule with Stephanie button.
All right. That's great. And you do have a place that they can sign up for your email blast there?
Yeah, if they go to the website, there should be a little purple pop-up on the left corner that says like subscribe to our newsletter. It asks for your name and your email address. And you just pop the information in there and hit submit, and that'll push you into our system. And that may not be enough now. There may be like a couple things I have to tweak on our end in order for you to definitely get on the list, but that's the best way to give us your email so we know that you want to be on the list, and we'll make sure you get on the list.
And ladies, I'm going to tell you something. The one thing that I've appreciated most about our time with Stephanie is where we haven't been able to support her like we want to yet. We're still working on things. We're going to get there. One of the things that I learned really, really quickly is that, look, I've had a couple females in my life that were dealing with things that they kept getting told there's nothing that we can do about it. You all know I don't like doing a lot of cussing and stuff on my show, but that's bullshit. They just don't want to look into it, or they can't look into it, or whatever their excuse is. If you're hurt, you've got to fight for yourself. Contact this lady and she can help you fight with you. She can help get stuff done. You don't have to live in pain. You don't have to live in anguish, and you don't have to live with that thought. Is there really something wrong? You know your body better than anybody. Contact Stephanie. Go to theazizaproject.org. Talk to her. She's going to help you out. So,
Do my
Steph,
best.
thank you so very much for joining us today and talking about this. We'll run this a couple times throughout the month,
Sure.
and hopefully we can get some more eyes on your event, and we can get you to that $1,500 mark and start getting you up to that 10,000, so we can find some more doctors out there.
That would be fantastic.
Again, The Aziza Project is a community pay it forward mission partner. Please shop, click, and pick every day. If you've got to do some shopping, check with our website. See if we can have somebody who can help you make that purchase. Then you can pick a cause like the Aziza Project. You can donate to them simply by shopping. It doesn't cost you any extra money. You just get better service because you're actually talking to the people who live that product. So, all right, my dear, greatest of luck to you. Let's please check in with me again before you close it down.
I can do that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So excited to do this, partly because I get to talk to a great guy and I get to talk to another someone who has taken faith in what we're doing here at the PAC channel and putting his foundation behind it, along with eventually they are going to be a part of the Community Pay It Forward family. So this gentleman is going to be have a huge part in everything that we're doing here at Community Pay It Forward and the PAC channel. Mr. Robert Heath Sr. That's kind of funny. I could say all that stuff all put together, no problem. I go to say your name and I all of a sudden start putting fingers in my mouth and playing with my tongue. But Robert Heath Sr., how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It is a pleasure to be with you. I really enjoy, your company and your conversation. We've been on, a number of calls since we first met, and I feel so aligned, and I really appreciate you having me on.
I think there's a level of comfort that you have with anybody and everybody you talk to, but you and I talking together has come very easy because there is an alignment there with what we're doing. Robert, you first thing I'm going to ask is that you give us a little bit of your background, your history, including with your wonderful service. Thank you very much for serving our country. But tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get to why you're doing what you're doing.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for that. A little bit of my background. For the listeners out there, you'll hear a varied background. You may think that I have career ADD. I like to say I'm a career Renaissance man, but I'll let you be the judge. Started off, I'm originally from Southside Chicago, and I grew up going to school. I always say I grew up hood adjacent, right? So I was going to school in the suburbs in good school areas, but I had family, friends, church family, and the like that were in not so great areas. And so I kind of lived between two worlds growing up, and I saw that there were different things. And so when I graduated high school, was getting ready to go to college, one of the things I wanted to be able to do was just to be able to fix that in some way. And the first thing that I looked at in being able to fix it was understanding how money worked and understanding how the economy worked. So I went and got my bachelor's degree in economics and speech communications. And then I went to try to give back. I got a teaching degree and went back and became a school teacher. And I was on the pathway to becoming a superintendent, fixing schools and doing the like. And I realized while I was doing that you need more than just to understand, to have the letters behind your name, to have the qualities and the capabilities. You have to be able to lead people. And I got to see that firsthand. I was teaching school in Memphis City Schools, which is the 20th largest school district in the country. And I got to see a superintendent who I believed in her program. I believed what she believed in, but I saw how her inability to lead people who didn't necessarily
Yep.
immediately agree with her, it undermined her entire program. And, less than a year later, she was gone, and the school district hadn't changed. And I was like, that's me in 20 years. Cause I know I'm not a great leader. I was okay. Right. I was a basketball coach. I was a, school improvement team coordinator, those types of things. But I didn't feel like I was great at leading people. I felt like I was that kind of person that's on the outside trying to get everybody to follow along. And so I knew I needed to learn something different. And so I went to 2 training academies. The first one was to learn and understand the system and understand how the levers of power work, how the power dynamics work in organizations as big as cities and states and governments and things like that. So I went to law school at the University of Illinois. And then the second thing that I did, the second academy that I went to, which I personally believe is the greatest leadership training academy in the history of man, is the United States Marine Corps. And I became an officer in the Marine Corps. And during that time, I learned so much about leading people, about being the type of leader that people will follow wherever you go. And I feel like that was something that I desperately needed because, again, I didn't understand how people worked as much. I understood very well how things worked. I understood, right, I'm a problem solver, so I was always good at that, but I didn't understand people. And the Marine Corps really, really taught me, and I learned a lot during my time as a Marine Corps officer. I became company commander, did a number of things while I was in the Marine Corps in leadership. But when I got out of the Marine Corps, one of the things that training taught me that I didn't know before, I thought that they were just bad leaders who, right, just didn't know what they were doing and just, screw people over. What I realized was there's a lot of people, like, leadership is lonely. First thing. That's the first thing I learned.
Yeah.
And most people who are in leadership were not trained and prepared for the level of leadership that they have arrived to. I've heard it said before that you get promoted to your level of incompetence, right? And so it's one of those things where
I love that. I love that.
Right, where if you're in the job and you're good, they're like, nope, you got to get promoted. We need you doing right because you're too good, right? And so they promote you to the level where you can't do the job easily anymore, and that's where you kind of get stuck. And there's a lot of leaders that are struggling with that. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I realized that I really had a heart for not only the leaders but the people that they were serving. So I started my company, the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group, really designed and focused on helping leaders to get the best out of themselves and those that they lead. And it came from my overall ethos, which is I believe that each of us is here for a purpose, right? This goes back to all the way to why I wanted to be, why I want to fix the problems that I saw in the neighborhoods that I was from, because I could see that there were people there. There were people who had a divine purpose, who had a reason for being here, who had gifts within them, but they couldn't demonstrate those gifts. The atmospherics and the environmentals so often would beat them down to the point where they didn't believe they could do it. There's so many stories of kids who join gangs and kids who sell drugs and kids who, young ladies who prostitute themselves and all these types of things that happen because their belief was that was the only way that they could take care of their family. That was the only way that they could survive. That was the only way that they could do that. And right, I knew those stories. I wasn't behind it. There's a lot of people who think that criminals are just bad people. And what I had the benefit, I guess, of growing up with is a bunch of people who were criminals, but were good people. And what I noticed about nearly all of them was that their belief of what options they had available to them is what drove them to criminality. It wasn't their character.
Robert, you and I talked about this when we talked the other day, and the truth is the truth here. Okay. The only difference between a criminal and a regular civilian is a criminal got caught. Every single one of us has done something that is, quote unquote, not within the law. And I think that if we start thinking about that, we can maybe help defeat that. Oh, this person's a criminal, they're a bad person, blah, blah, blah. Because they're not all bad people.
Right.
Like, there are good people, there are bad people out there. We know this. But good people that get to walk the streets freely every day, there are very bad people who get to walk the streets, freely every day. Yeah. And, the other thing I want to say about this is, damn you, because I would love to see someone like you fixing the school system. You know, I love the fact that you're out there doing what you're doing, and I respect the hell out of you for it. But it would be so nice to get somebody in there with the energy that you've got to fix some of the school problems.
Well, I think you'll be happy to hear that we're still working on that problem. But one of the things that I learned was that the problem with the schools is actually bigger than the schools, and that was the big thing that kind of that was the epiphany moment that I had when I started working with leaders, and why I focused on it, because there's a couple of things that a lot of people don't recognize. And when I was working in the schools as I was a school improvement team coordinator. I'm a basketball coach. I'm a club sponsor. I'm a union rep for the teachers union. Like, I'm in all of the spaces. And one of the things that I saw was that while, yes, kids are with us for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, their parents aren't with us for that period of time. Their parents are in other areas. And one of the things that no matter what the school does, the parent is still, no matter what anybody's whining about, complaining about, whatever, the parent is still the most powerful influence on the child and the child's development and who that child will be. They call it generational curses for a reason, right? Like, there are things that you get in the atmospherics of home that no amount of schooling or anything else is going to overcome. And why that's important is because what I started to look at and what I started to understand was, if we don't fix our communities, our schools, fixing the schools isn't going to help. Fixing the schools, what it'll allow for is it'll allow people to escape the community, but it still leaves the community creating these people who are stuck in this mindset, like I said before, where they're believing that they can't be the best that they can be. They're believing that they have a fate of just not having good things happen to them. And what I believe wholeheartedly is, I believe that everybody has a divine purpose. I believe that we're on this earth to learn how to manifest that greatness, how to cultivate and to grow and to be who we're created to be. And what I believe leadership is about, in all honesty, is facilitating the manifestation of greatness in others. It's helping others to be great in whatever they're doing, in whoever they are, and ultimately to be the best that they can be. And so when I started the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group, it was really with an understanding of, we as adults spend 35% of our adult lives at work. That's more than we spend anywhere else. It's more than we spend at church. That's more than we spend with our family. That's more than we spend asleep. That's more than we spend anywhere. We spend the majority of our adult lives at work. And so if we can be better at improving workspaces, improving leadership, and improving how people treat each other and how people learn to lead at work, then that has a trickle-down effect. That has a cascading effect of moving out into the community. So one of the things that we've done, like I said, we have the consulting group where we work with businesses, we work with companies to really help them transform their organizations and to teach leadership that is about others, right? We call it legacy leadership that people are able to be their best and get the best out of other people, even when you're not around. What I also created is the Legacy Builders Academy, and that's an organization that we really are about personal development and helping people to truly manifest their greatness, helping people to really understand what is their divine purpose, right? One of the programs that we have is called Thriving in Chaos, and what we really help people to figure out is what is the thing that's keeping you from doing what you know you should be doing. Right. It's not that you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. People have read all of the Tony Robbins books, all of the Jim Rohn books, all of the personal development books. They've gone to the seminars. They've watched Oprah. They've listened to Dr. Phil. They've done all the things. But there's still something keeping them from applying it, from making it happen. And what we do with the Legacy Builders Academy is we help people to move through those steps of, how do I become the best person that I can be in all of the different facets of my life? How do I stop just waking up, surviving, go to bed, repeat, and learn to live what we call a thriver life? Learn to live a life where every day you're excited when your feet hit the ground. You're excited when you get out of bed because you know that you get to move a step closer to that purpose. You get to do more things that are in alignment with your purpose for life. And so we have a number of different programs. Like I said, we've got the Thriving in Chaos program where we teach people how to master their time. We've got the Legacy Builders Academy and the Legacy Builders Mastermind, where we actually help people to figure out how to integrate all of the different factors and parts of their lives, right? We've got our Millionaire Mentor Weekend, where we actually, for those that are entrepreneurially inclined and want to learn how to master their money, we get a group of my legacy mentors, millionaire mentors, together to kind of do some masterminding, do some networking, and do some hot seat work on their particular areas. So that's another business that we started really to deal with the individual. So we started Legacy Leadership to deal with leaders and organizations so that we can help improve culture. We started the Legacy Builders Academy to really deal with the individual. And then one of the big things, to your point of how are we dealing with the community, is we started the Legacy Builders Foundation, the Legacy Builders Global Foundation. And that foundation is really designed to do a lot of the work that you were talking about, right? So we have a number of programs. The first program we have is called Legacy Moms. How does the community start? The community starts with the family, and specifically the first connection that we have coming into the world is the connection between mom and baby, right?
Yep.
And so in our Legacy Builders, on our Legacy Moms program, what we do is, my wife and I had this experience where our first daughter was born, and my wife had a very hard experience with the birth. The pregnancy was fine, but then the birth was a very difficult thing. She was supposed to be, she was trying to deliver naturally, and then she wound up having to have a C-section, and it became an emergency C-section because they had given her Pitocin to induce, and then that put the baby in distress. And so then they had to go get the baby. All the things, right? If you've ever seen the Ricky Lake documentary about about the business of birthing and all the rest of that, then you understand. And what I found was that there were so many mothers that have had that story where their first birth was traumatic. And so what we've done is we've created the Legacy Moms Foundation, where we're focusing on a particular segment of the population who generally doesn't have the funds to afford this type of care, and they're generally above the threshold where the government takes care of this care. There's what we had with our second child was a doula. And that doula is basically an advocate for mom. She's there to make sure that mom's experience is an experience where mom is taken care of, right? And she's there to do things that I don't even know to ask as dad, standing in there trying to help, but not being equipped to help. And she's also there to help mom and focus on mom. And that experience, my wife had such a different experience with my son, and such a different mental experience for her. And so that's what we do. We basically give scholarships for moms to get doula care for their pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, delivery, and then postpartum doula care as well. And that's one of the programs that we do. We also have a Legacy Dads program where we are helping fathers to understand that transition between being a husband or being a significant other and then being a father, and how to balance the roles, and what is the mental health component that happens, because it's an existential change. And there are things that are happening with your significant other, with your spouse, as you're going through that. If you have other children, there are kind of existential changes that are happening because they're going from the only child to one of, or whatever it is. And how do you support that as a father, as a legacy dad? And then we have programs all the way through, going from the mom and then the family dynamic, all the way to schools, communities, and et cetera. And so when you talk about, the work that we want to do, what we're doing on the legacy side is we're really looking at how do we revamp education? How do we make education about developing citizens instead of developing employees? Because one of the things that happened and a lot of people talk about this pejoratively, like it was so horrible and the bad industrialists. What they don't understand is, like, what was education like before this happened? So if you go back in educational history, what used to happen is if you had money, you got educated. And if you didn't have money, you didn't know how to read. You knew how to count because you needed to know how to count so you could do your job, but you didn't need to know how to read. And so you only knew how to read if somebody in your household or in your family knew how to read. And then there came the Industrial Revolution, and there was a gentleman by the name of Horace Mann, who is a famous educator in the United States. And he was part of the group and part of the vanguard that brought industry and education together, so that laws got changed, compulsory education laws got changed, so that kids were not just out on the streets or just dealing with their parents, but parents knew that their kids were going to be taken care of by educational professionals, so that they could go to work and work a full day in a factory. They knew their kids were going to be getting educated. The factories knew that they were going to have educated people who were able to do these jobs that they were building. So they were going to have a workforce. So there was this kind of symbiotic and synergistic relationship between industry and education. And America went from a very high illiteracy rate to nowadays we are 99% literate in the United States. but we've changed over the past 100 years since that marriage came to be, and we've moved into the digital age, and first into the informational age, and now into the digital age. But the education has not moved pace with it. And
Yeah.
what also happened is that a lot of the organizations that were there to maintain civic unity, the things that taught us about what our civic duties were, whether they were churches or whether they were, Knights of Columbus or Rotary clubs, or all of the different organizations that would be in a community that held the community together. A lot of those organizations have lost their sway over the majority of the community. And so the school has been basically burdened with doing everything that the community used to do. And the school, number one, is not prepared to do that. Number two, is not qualified to do that. So I say all that to say what the Legacy Builders Foundation is really focusing on is, how do we educate, and how do we prepare, and how do we develop citizens? How do we understand our common bond, the connection that we have as being from our community, from our neighborhood, from our state, from our country? And how do we make sure that we are educating people in a way that develops the whole person to be a great citizen, and to understand that the social contract that we have, one of the things I learned about right in law school, is all laws are based on a social contract that we have together. And it comes from our days as hunter-gatherers and tribes. And it's the understanding that we are going to work together for the advancement of all, rather than individually for the advancement of one. And how do we navigate that? How do we have the discussions that we need to have? How do we listen to somebody that disagrees with us in a way that we're working towards a solution, rather than trying to just make the person the problem? Right. And those are skills. Those are things that we have to be able to expose people to. So to your point earlier, what we're doing is we're developing curriculum, and we're starting with the conversations that have to happen. We start at the family, right? Because there are conversations that have to happen when the family's changing and when dynamics are changing that are difficult. And we acknowledge the difficulty. And one of the curricula that we teach is called courageous communication, right? We acknowledge the fact that it's easier and it's safer to not have the conversation. It's actually what we want to do. But courageous communication calls us to do what's necessary for the sake of the community, for our individual sakes as well, to get what we really want, instead of to just be living to survive every day. How can we actually live to be our best? How can we manifest the greatness that is within us? We have to have courageous communication and courageous conversations with people. And how do we do that? So we teach all of these things so that and we're really working to make education more than just about getting a job, more than just about starting a business, more than just about, balancing your checkbook. It's about, how do you integrate everything that you are to be the best citizen and the best human that you could be?
You can have the best job in the world and you can still be broke. If you don't take things serious. Look, I want to bring this up, and I know I've said it before, and probably people are getting sick and tired of me saying it, but I think that you brought up a good point with this, that I am very close to a teacher who teaches in Japan. He is my son. And he said, he has come out and he has said to me, Dad, I won't teach in the United States because the parents will not let their kids learn. And I think that's right where you were saying, look, we as parents, we need to accept that, you know what? History is history. Okay. Look, history is not always a good thing. There was a lot of bad stuff that happened in history, but it happened.
Exactly.
Regardless.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter any of that stuff.
Right.
History happened.
Right.
Maybe things, we have a lot of people who are really confused on Juneteenth, and they don't understand that Juneteenth to African Americans is a lot more significant than the 4th of July, because there is a cultural difference there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that 4th of July didn't happen.
Right.
It also doesn't mean that Juneteenth didn't happen. It means it means that they both happen, and we need to teach about both of them. Right.
And I think one of the biggest problems that people run into with those conversations, and I think that this, right, one of the things that I always run, when I was in law school, I was the person who my liberal friends would get mad at me. My conservative friends would get mad at me because I was the person that was like, we have to talk to each other, not at each other. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I would call the liberals on their BS. I would call my conservative friends on their BS on a particular issue. And I think one of the things that we run into, like this conversation with Juneteenth and 4th of July, is while, yes, they're two separate holidays that mean two different things, to act as if one is more important or less important than the other creates a false juxtaposition. It creates a false dilemma. We don't have to look at them as if which one is more important, because the reality, if we are actually telling history the way that we need to tell history, is that Juneteenth doesn't exist without July 4th. And so even though Frederick Douglass famously said, right, July 4th doesn't mean the same thing to me that it means to you, which was a powerful statement for him to be able to say when he was saying it. But for us to act as if July 4th doesn't mean anything in the global history of what America is, or in the fact that Juneteenth is able to happen because of people who are making the argument, like Frederick Douglass did, that July 4th should apply to everybody. And if it doesn't, then we have a problem, right? Yeah. I think one of the problems that so many people have with talking about history is that we like to draw lines in history as if the sides are still the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, me as an African-American descendant of slaves in 2024 have to understand that any white person that I'm talking to is not responsible for whatever that is that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because they were not them. And if I can understand that, then I have more in common with the white person that I'm talking about today than I do with the slave in 1863.
Yeah. And I think that we as white people really need to understand that your view of things is going to be a little bit different, but it doesn't change the fact that fact is fact.
Exactly. And the only reason that it's different is because I'm aware of certain facts that you're not aware of. And once you become aware of them, your perspective very quickly begins to mirror my perspective. And on the flip side, what I have to do is not discount your perspective just because you don't know the facts that I know, because there are certain parts of your perspective that are built off of the fact that I don't know facts that you know. For example, I was a teacher in Nashville, Tennessee, in Franklin, Tennessee, actually, which is just south of Nashville. I was the teacher at a school that was the county seat. Now, our principal was Black. Our vice principal was Black. Our student population was very multicultural, but this is the county seat high school of Williamson County. It is the oldest high school in the county. Everybody who was in the county, like, it used to be the only high school. So even though they developed newer high schools and more high schools, there was a premium to being able to go to this high school, because your father, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents had probably gone to this high school if they went to school. One of my students, and oh, by the way, the school's mascot is the Rebel, right? So Colonel Reb, right? Now, in that space, one of my students was a student who drove and flew on his car and everything, flew the Confederate battle flag. And it was a very interesting situation because, right, I know what that means to me when I see that flag, but I also know that that's not what he means, because I know him as a student. I know him as a person. He's respectful. He's one of the most respectful kids that I had, right? And he was a hunter, and he would bring me deer jerky. He was one of those kids that I loved seeing him. When I would see him, we had that type of relationship. So I sat down and had a conversation with him to really understand what it meant for him, because I realized in that moment that if I have this relationship with him and he's doing this thing that I don't understand, it can't negate the character of him that I have seen day in, day out, just because I don't understand why he's doing it. So I asked the question, what does that mean to you? Why are you doing that? And I realized that for him, it had to do with his heritage. It had to do with where he was from. It had to do with the fact that he had people in his family who had fought in that war. And when I learned what that war meant for him, I learned a different perspective. I learned that he grew up with that war not being all about slavery. He grew up with that war being about the things that his family, who didn't own slaves, were frustrated about the North for doing. And there's a reason why it's called the War of Northern Aggression, by more people than just slave owners.
Yeah. Yep.
And it doesn't mean that they're right, as in there's a universal truth, and it's either the Great Civil War, the Great Emancipation War, the war. It's understanding that his perspective is based on facts that I'm not considering. And they're just as much fact as my facts about slavery are fact.
Mm-hmm.
And in being able to have that conversation, I was able to introduce the facts that he was unaware of, so that he had a different appreciation and understanding for what he was doing. But now he can actually, whether he decides to take the flag down, to fly the flag, or to not fly the flag, he can have a conversation with someone that may be offended by the flag and actually articulate his position to reduce the offense, to see that person as a person, and to understand and to give explanation. Now, whether or not at the end of the day the flag comes down or it doesn't, that's a whole separate conversation that I'm not as interested in. Like, I'm not one of those people that's, oh, we need to take down all of these statues, because that is also history. That is also fact. People also liked those people and revere those people, and it wasn't, you can't reduce it to, and that just means that you wanted to keep slavery around.
Yeah.
Because there were people who were vehemently anti-slavery, but also wanted to the South to stand.
Robert E. Lee did not agree with slavery.
Exactly.
Robert E. Lee was anti-slavery. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's something that, a lot of people forget. And you mean you were able to have this conversation without hating the kid?
Yeah. And this is, I
God.
was 23 years old when I was having this conversation, right? But it was one of those things where I really had gotten intrigued in it when I was in college, and I was really starting to understand being African American from a perspective, because I got my minor in Spanish, and I actually wound up being a Spanish teacher when I was in school. And one of the reasons why I studied Spanish was to get an understanding of what it meant to be of African descent in the Western Hemisphere, from not just a Amerocentric understanding of that. And when I looked at the different African populations, the African diaspora, if you would, in the Americas, in North and South America, Central America, in Brazil, in Cuba, in Puerto Rico, in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Panama, in all of these places where actually the African American and the mulatto, the descent numbers are much more than there are in America. In the United States of America, African Americans have never been more than 16% of the total population. Even at the height of the slavery in the South, when we were 50% of the Southern population, we were still only 16% of the total American population. In places like Brazil and Colombia and Venezuela and Panama and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Haiti, all of those places have had, at the heights of slavery and everything else, populations that were 80, 70, 60% African American or mulatto, right? And even to this day, Brazil is still 66% African American or mulatto, and mulatto is mixed African and European heritage, versus mestizo, which is mixed indigenous and European heritage, right? So there are these places where African culture has much more roots than in the United States, because what a lot of people don't realize is only 3.5% of the slave trade came through to the United States. Most of American slavery was kind of breeding and building slave empires here in the United States. It wasn't built off the transatlantic slave trade. But I say all that to say, when I went on that journey in college to really understand what it means to be, and what I was studying was what it means to be a Black man in America in college, one of the things that I learned was to see white people very differently. And it was something that was really interesting, because I got to see what was going on, from kind of pull myself out of history and not look at myself as a person at all, but just look at people as people and see what people were dealing with. And there were some very interesting things that I saw, right? That were counter the narratives that a lot of us have been taught. And the reason why that was important for me was because what I realized was, when you can see people as people instead of as part of the group that they belong to, it forces you to deal with the person. And, this is what we talk about with leadership, right? So often leaders will get angry at those that they lead or those that work with them, and they won't deal with the actual person. They'll deal with the caricature of the person that they've created. They'll deal with the person. Like, I remember I was giving a speech one time and I was talking about the fact that people say, that person's just collecting a check. And it makes sense as a rationale until you actually dig into it and you're like, wait a minute. So let me make sure. All right. They're showing up to work every day on time. They don't leave early. They leave when they're supposed to leave. And they're doing their job good enough that you can't fire them, which means that they're doing it competently. They're just not doing it exceptionally. And you're telling me that they're doing all of that work just so that they can pick up the check that you're paying them, where you know that you're paying them not enough for that level of work, because you're paying John the same amount of money, who's doing less, who's showing up late, and he's on a performance improvement plan, and he's doing all the rest of the type stuff. And he's getting the same check this other person's getting, but you're telling me that person is just showing up to get a check. Does that make sense? When there's a much easier way to just get a check, when I can be on FMLA and just get a check, where I can be on paid time off as much as I want and just get a check, when I can abuse the system and not come to work and just get a check. Does that make sense? And people go, oh, I never thought about it that way. And then you go, so have we ever actually looked at them and said, what are the obstacles that you're having? What are the problems that you're having? Right. And I don't exempt myself from this. I was that guy at one point in time. I remember being frustrated. I was a company commander. I had a Marine that worked for me, and I just couldn't understand why he couldn't get stuff done when I asked him to get it done. He would say, yes, sir, I'm gonna get it done. It's gonna happen. And I would give him 2 weeks and I'd come back 2 weeks later and it's not done. I'm like, what is going on? And I had to sit back and really look at it and say, oh, this is outside of his character, because he's not the type of person that just blows things off. So why is he struggling? That became the question. And when I went and looked at why he was struggling, what I realized was he sucked at prioritization.
Yeah.
So if I gave him something to do and gave him deadlines and put it and scaffolded it for him, he was always on point. But when I made him have to juggle 2 or 3 projects at a time without any intervention from me, he would struggle. And so what I started doing was setting what I call quality control checks. I knew what my expectations were for the project. So if I gave him a project, if I gave him 3 projects and I expected, one was 2 weeks, one was 5 weeks, one was 1 week, I expected him to be at certain stages on each project at certain places. So I would just check in with him. And if he wasn't there, I knew that was my leadership moment to help coach him how to get there. Hey, what's keeping you from getting this done? Oh, I was thinking about doing that 2 weeks from now, which makes perfect sense if it's not done, if it's not due for 5 weeks. But that's too late for me to feel comfortable that he's actually on target. So instead of letting him get away with, I'm going to do it 2 weeks from now, what do you think could get that to this point, at least by Friday? Well, if I just did this and I did this, that I would appreciate that if you could get it just at least that far by Friday. Does that work? Oh, sure. No problem, sir. And then guess what would happen? He would get it done by Friday.
Robert, I'm going to tell you something. My last job before my motorcycle accident, I got reprimanded because I would get so upset at the people under me that they couldn't, that they were not getting the job done. And it's not until after the accident, when I started realizing, and which I still have a trouble with impatience on, procrastination and stuff like that. I still have a huge problem with that. But I really started thinking to myself, you know what? These people are not you. Things are not wired in their head that they have to do everything right now and get everything done. They've got their own pattern. As long as it gets done, let's let it get done. And that is one thing. I've got one last question, and damn, I cannot believe that we're out of time, but it makes me mad. But here's my question. I say all the time that, look, you don't have to be a leader. We need followers too. Okay. This is a true fact. But Robert, can everyone be a leader?
So the answer, and it may be controversial, so if you disagree with me, let us know in the comments, reach out. You got my information. We'll talk. But I believe that the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I do too.
I will put an asterisk by that answer because I have a very specific definition of leadership. And so to your point, while yes, we need followers, I don't believe that being a leader and being a follower are incompatible, because I believe that leadership is facilitating the manifestation of greatness in others. Facilitating is making easier the greatness coming out of other people. I believe that no matter what role you are in, no matter what title you have, no matter, you can be the person who sweeps the floors all the way up to the CEO. You have the ability to work one-on-one with people to help them be better. And in every encounter, if you master the skills that we talk about, right? When we talk about courageous communication, when we talk about setting proper expectations, when we talk about delegating properly, when we talk about engaging people's inner problem solver, when we talk about rewarding what it is that you want to continue, if you utilize those skills properly, it doesn't matter what your authority level is. You can lead up, you can lead down, you can lead sideways. And so I would argue that, yes, everybody should be a leader. Everybody should strive to be a leader, because here's the reality. The reason that I'm in this world and not on some island by myself, never interacting with anybody, is because the interactions that we have one with another are supposed to be edifying for us both, not just for me. And if I am constantly, Jordan Peterson says it this way, he says, treat everybody as if they have something to teach you.
I love that.
Right. And if I'm treating everybody as if they have something to teach me, I am learning at the same time that I'm making it easier for you to be the best you that you can be. When I see that there's a gap that I can fill, then I fill it. When I see that you're filling a gap for me, then I appreciate it and I demonstrate gratitude. But at the end of the day, whether I'm being a follower or I'm being a quote unquote leader, a guide is what I really call that, I am putting myself in a position to make it easier for you to be your best self. Because here's the funny thing. The places where I am weak, the people that have those strengths, that's their opportunity to shine.
Yep.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I actually got the answer I was looking for. Robert, how do people get a hold of you, my friend?
Yeah, so you can definitely check out our website, tllcg.com. That's the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group, tllcg.com. And you can shoot me an email at robert@tllcg.com. And I'd love to talk to you all about anything that you have. Again, if you are looking at doing some things with nonprofits and helping, our Legacy Builders Foundation is doing a lot of good work, and we're looking for people to help out. If you're looking at personal development, feel free to reach out to us. We have a number of programs that we can help you as an individual. And then if you're a leader in business and you're looking to get more productivity, more throughput, or just a better organizational culture, we can help you with the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group as well.
Brother, I'm sending my love, man, because I've enjoyed this. Let's do it again.
I appreciate it. Me as well, brother. It's always a pleasure, Jack. And I wish blessings on you and everybody that is doing things over the community. Pay it forward. You all are doing great things, and I appreciate you, my man.
Well, and I also want to thank you to welcome you to the PAC channel as one of our brand new sponsors. Thank you, sir. We will be right back. Introducing Shop, Click, and Pick, the simplest way to support those doing good in communities everywhere. We understand that shopping is a necessity, but with a slight adjustment, you can make a huge difference without spending any extra money. Here's how it works. Please visit communitypayitforward.us and navigate to the Find Your Partners tab. Discover our verified giving partners, which are trusted allies ready to meet your needs. Shop with any of the partners that resonate with you. Click a picture of the receipt or invoice, then pick the mission partner you wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt directly to us. After that, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchases, knowing that you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing the story of those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone when we all come together. Well, I had to start that interview a little bit sooner than I was expecting, so I am sorry about that. I did promise you this document, and I do want to share this with you. This is the Gather and Pour with a Purpose. You can see the QR code for differently abled entertainment on one side and the QR code for dignified dementia on the other. If you would like to see the episode where we talk to these two wonderful, wonderful ladies, it is going to be coming up right after we are done, probably about 5 minutes after we are done showing this. I do apologize for the delay. We ended up having an emergency and so had to take care of that. I also want to make sure that everybody understands how important these events are and these nonprofits are. Folks, these are singular people nonprofits, okay? These are the small people. These aren't the ones that take and have, big name performers talking for them and getting paid big money. I'll just say that, getting paid big money. These are the small nonprofits that there are 1, 2, 3 people shows that are doing the work of 6, 7 to 10 people. I also want to make sure that all nonprofits and small businesses know, coming up this Wednesday on Community Impact, we are going to be talking to Les Simpson. And one of the things Les and I were talking about is that he understands that the programs he has had before are a little difficult to understand, if not, some people are uncomfortable with them. He is part of a new program, and this new program it guarantees you donors. Okay, so check it out there, and it guarantees it to a money back guarantee. Excuse me. So come and join us and find out a little bit more this Wednesday, starting at 7 p.m. East, 5 here in the mountain, 4 out west. Mentioned it in that video. My son is in Japan, and I would like to wish everyone in Japan the best of recovery. There was a 7.1 earthquake yesterday on Thursday. And I want to make sure that people understand that, look, we're in a very, very volatile time right now. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So we need to make sure that we're watching out for each other. So please, please, please take in and just do something nice for someone out there. And do something nice for Fido. Whatever you want to name your dog. Because tomorrow, the 10th, is Spoil Your Dog Day. If you go to communitypayitforward.us and you type in Mull in one, it'll take you to where you can find Gifts So Good. We are expanding into non-everyday pet, I guess, the abnormal pet. So we're getting some stuff in for lizards and doing some things for snakes and rabbits and look, the truth is that this is a startup. We're working very hard to make this very accessible for everyone. We are in negotiation right now to try to start getting some dog foods involved, some healthier dog foods. Look, you all know, you can see, I like my pets. All right. Matter of fact, 2 of those fish that are on that video, I could have just used my own, but I decided not to. And they get mad at me every time they see that video. They're like, well, fine, you could have used us. Especially Louie, my stick fish. He's got an attitude. He really does. So, little diva. But I want to thank Robert very much for joining the team and being part of what we're doing. He is a brand new partner when it comes to a sponsor when it comes to the channel. He signed up for an entire year. He's going to be sponsoring for us for this entire year. You will be seeing more about him very, very soon. He is joining our great friend Jill E. Schultz, who is giving away a free Uncover Your Shame and her course, Shed the Shame. So go and check out her website, jilleschultz.com. jilleschultz.com. Go and check it out. Download the free gift. And every single one of us, as we said in that last video, every single one of us has a past. One of my favorite sayings, and I said this on a show a couple weeks ago, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. There's things in our past that we might be holding in some shame. We can let that shame go. Everybody's made mistakes. Okay. Yes, some mistakes are bigger than others. Some mistakes are much bigger than others, but you know what? Let's try to work at letting it go. So, very sorry about that. But please make sure that you go and check out jilleschultz.com. I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this IMpACT on this IMpACT short. And I want to make sure that everybody does go to and checks out the I'm so afraid it's going to happen again. So sorry about that. That's one of the lovely things about having the laundry room right next to your office. Please go and make sure that you check out the, that's the wrong one. Goes and checks out the Aziza Project's Pampered Chef Party on Facebook. I do apologize. Like I said, we ended up having to take and call the ambulance and have my mom taken to the hospital. So I'm a little flustered right now. It's been a long day already, and it's 11:30 a.m. So, but please love somebody out there, because somebody out here loves you. Make sure, folks, that you're taking care of someone. All right. Look, if you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. No one needs to go it alone. When we all come together, and do me a favor, do something nice for someone today. It'll make you feel better. It'll make them feel better. And it'll make this place that we live in a hell of a lot better. Let's make sure that we're taking care of each other. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Monday.
Show me the way. You want to hold the heart. Sunset Boulevard. Bring me here, 'cause it's not quite clear to be apart. Sunset Boulevard.